Good morning, Bucknutters. Look, we're on time. We're close to it. Thursday, February 6th, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. This podcast covers the national champions. Today I have on the lovely and talented Bill Kurelic and Mark Porter, and we will get to them in just a sec. But Pat would be remiss if I did not talk about his favorite product, and that is Joy Mode. Say goodbye to weakness in the bedroom with Joy Mode Sexual Performance Booster. This all-natural supplement is designed to enhance everything and make you more reliable in the sack. But Joy Mode isn't just about better sex. Daily use supports healthier blood vessels, boosts heart health, and enhances your athletic performance. Expertly formulated and backed by science, it's proven to improve your performance by 50% in just 60 days. If you are looking to take your game to the next level, visit tryjoymode.com. One word, tryjoymode.com. And use code BUCKNUTS at checkout for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. That's tryjoymode.com and use code BUCKNUTS for 20% off single purchases. All right, guys, we talked a lot about staff upheaval. We speculated on many names, and as it turns out, there's only going to be one new name added to the mix. That is Tyler Bowen will be the offensive line coach. Brian Hartline has been, I don't know if it's elevated because he's always kind of had the title, but he is now the offensive coordinator. He now will have play calling duties. Bill, you have followed this intently. Your thoughts on the move? Did you expect it? And I guess the one question is, now everyone wants to know, what do you think Hartline will be as a play caller?
Well, first of all, congratulations to Brian Hartline, Billy Kessler, and Tyler Bowen. Certainly, if a guy has earned something, Brian Hartline has earned the promotion, so to speak. I mean, he obviously has done a great job of developing wide receivers. He's done a fantastic job of recruiting wide receivers, and he's been part of a prolific offense. There's no question. I think you're going to see more of the same of what you've seen last year and to some extent the previous years. But obviously, he's been very involved with Ryan Day's offense. He's been with Ryan Day since Ryan Day has been here. He knows that offense very well. And then he had the added benefit, at least in my opinion, of being around Chip Kelly for a year and winning a national championship. So I think you're going to see more of what you've seen in the past, but I think Brian Hartline will put some of his own touches on things. I think that obviously Ryan Day's going to have the final decisions. He's ultimately the head coach, and he's the guy with the offense more than he is with anything else. So I think it's just going to be a lot of continuation of what you've seen from Ryan Day's offenses with some of Brian Hartline's, I guess you'd say, added dimensions to it. And they're going to throw the ball. There's no question about that.
Marcus, your thoughts? Are you surprised? What do you hear from your cronies in the business? Just your sense of the staff.
Yeah, not surprised. Like Bill said, it's a well-earned position. He's put his time in. He's paid his dues. And what a better way to learn than from someone like Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, to me, seems like very confident, almost arrogant in how much confidence he has to try new things on the field, different formations, unbalanced motions to quad. I mean, really on the outer edges of playbooks. And I think for Coach Hartline, it's nice to see someone in the building be like that. And I think it'll free him up as a play caller to know that, you know what, Chip was out there on the edge and he did a really good job. And these plays that were out on the edge each week, these little packages that you'd see, I think maybe he'll take a little note from those. But again, you guys, touched on all these points so elegantly. He's been around the system. He knows the players, the terminology. Nothing will change for the players. There will probably be a strong passing game lean. Being the receivers coach, you always try to solve your problems with the guys you know best and the concepts you know best, which a lot of those are going to be route combos and one-on-ones and understanding that stuff. But yeah, I think this was well earned. And, like the Chip Kelly, it's almost like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. A little bit of that was handed down, and now we'll see how it comes to fruition. And the spring ball, we won't, because I remember when Brian Hartline and even Chip Kelly in the spring game came in, it's the most vanilla play calling ever. So you don't reveal anything. You don't show who you are. So we're going to have to wait till next year, probably 3 or 4 games into the season before we see the bag of Brian Hartline, like we would see the bag of Chip Kelly.
My kids were asking me about this, and they said, well, when in doubt, he's probably just going to throw it to 4. And I thought, that's pretty smart. I'd hire him too. I also want to say this. I think he's going to do a great job. The idea that he's being handed this as some kind of I don't know, he just deserves it and he's getting it. I think he's going to do a great job. He's thrived in every position he's had. So, and he wants to be here, by the way. People keep talking about Hartline. The national media are so off base on understanding the draw to Columbus for these guys who are pros and are raising their families here. They don't want to leave while their kids are 12. They want to raise their kids in Columbus. Why wouldn't you? All right, Bill, what do you think about this? Is it possible that recruiting will get even better now because you have Hartline maybe spreading out to more positions? I don't know how that works with offensive coordinator. And I'd also like you to talk about Tyler Bowen, the new offensive line coach. You did some research on him last night, and I think he's a very interesting pickup. One thing I've noticed, and we talked about this, the guys on the way out maybe weren't lovers of recruiting. The guys on the way in, a little bit younger, a little more known for recruiting. Put it in context as the guru that you are.
Well, I'm not sure how much better their wide receiver recruiting could get. I mean, it's been spectacular. Now, I will say that they kind of switched things up slightly, and that, wide receiver recruiting was so good that they were stacking all those 5 and high 4-star wide receivers on top of high 4-star wide receiver 5. And they can't all play right away. And guys were at times looking to transfer out because they expected or thought they were good enough to play right away. But, now they've gone to the method of maybe getting some developmental guys like a BP Miller, for instance, in developing those guys. And BP Miller, while he is a developmental guy because he hadn't got a lot of experience at wide receiver, he is a super talent. So, I think they're going to continue to do that. But maybe where it can help too is that, hey, Brian Hartline can say, I'm the one running the show now as far as the plays that are going to be called and all. And whether you're a wide receiver, running back, you're going to get the ball. You're tight ends. He's good friends, really good friends. He and Keenan Bailey are great friends, and they recruited together before Keenan Bailey was a full-time coach. So I think it may help tight end recruiting a little bit, perhaps. So we'll see. Now, the second part of your question was Tyler Bowen, and I did do research on him, and I knew a little bit about him beforehand. He, in fact, I had an article yesterday, shortly after the news broke that he had been hired to be a high six offensive line coach. I had an article about his background and some thoughts on him as a recruiter. At Virginia Tech, he wasn't really called on to be a main recruiter because he was called on to be their offensive coordinator first and foremost. And very often coordinators don't do a lot of recruiting. Now, Brian Hartline, that's not going to change with him. He's going to go out and recruit like crazy still, even though he's a coordinator now. But with Bowen, he wasn't tasked with doing the recruiting job that much at Virginia Tech, but he was at Penn State, and he did do a good job. He got high marks as a recruiter. In fact, I was told by a good source on the Virginia Tech side of things, when he was hired as a coach, offensive coordinator of Virginia Tech, part of it was based on how good a recruiter he was and his knowledge for recruiting. So I look for him to do a good job. Particularly, he has strong ties in the DMV, and that's a pretty talent-laden area. Now, maybe not so much for offensive linemen, but it's got a lot of talent down there, and that's a good place to have a lot of connections. He also, it's going to be interesting, I think, to see. He's from Georgia originally, so how much does he use that in his recruiting? Because there sure are a lot of good line prospects in the state of Georgia. But I used an example of one of his years, I believe it was 2020, where he was the number 7 recruiter ranked in the 247 Sports recruiter rankings in the entire Big Ten. The only Ohio State coach at that time that had a higher ranking than Tyler Bowen was, guess,
Brian Hartline.
Brian Hartline. So he had a better ranking that year than anybody on the Ohio State staff than Tyler Bowen. So the guy has proven he can recruit.
Mark, this guy worked for Joe Moorhead at one point in time. Joe Moorhead's in Akron. He has some ties here. I think for Bucknutters, to go back to what we were saying earlier, and we had this in the boarding house yesterday, Justin Fry, really strong developer of players and really good coach of offensive line. That's now been proven. He just wasn't interested in putting the time out on the recruiting show because he's a young dad and didn't want to do that as much. So that's why what you do, you go to the pros. 6 years younger, Bowen, probably a little bit more aggressive on the trail. Mark, what have you heard about him? And would you agree that a little more focus on recruiting might help him out a little bit?
Yeah, with yesterday being the real signing day, or the used to be signing day, I tried to text some of my buddies, but I didn't get much reply on, the Bowen research. I think because people were busy. I'm hoping I get some texts back this morning. I don't know much about him. I'm kind of reading Bill's article like all the other Bucknutters. Penn State, when he was there as the recruiting coordinator, they didn't recruit Ohio much. I saw Theo Johnson, the tight end that the New York Giants have right now, was one of his biggest recruits. And he's landed some pretty big guys and battled, like you're saying, and won some battles that probably people didn't expect him to win. But yeah, very little on the behind the scenes, information on him. But I think that'll drip into me in the next couple of days. I think I know some people who coach with him some other places. But you got to remember that yesterday there was a lot of scuttle going around, and I think I posted over 200 and some commitments. A lot of them FCS and Ivy and stuff like that. But if it wasn't for the early signing day in December, yesterday would have been a day that didn't just pass by without any notice.
Also, I should interject. Landon Tingwell, the offensive lineman that went to Penn State, that was a kid that Ohio State, by the way, wanted. They recruited him and were very interested in bringing him in. But he ended up at Penn State, and he had, I'm going to kind of paraphrase here a little bit. He had a comment yesterday talking about Tyler Bowen, because Tyler Bowen recruited him. And he said that if it wasn't for Tyler Bowen, something paraphrasing again, he was not going to end up most likely at Penn State. He had a very high praise for Tyler Bowen, the recruiter.
All right, 2 quick Maryland questions here, and then we'll move, and then I'm going to read an ad, and then we'll do some more stuff. I'm thinking Zahir Mathis played the recruiting very poorly to end up at Maryland. Zahir Mathis, one-time commitment to Ohio State. I think he's a Philly native. My guy wanted some NIL love, and he got it from Maryland. It's pretty simple. Bill, nod if you're in agreement. You can't be held on the record if you just nod. There you go. Secondly, there was another question here about Emmanuel Iheanacho. Yes, Emmanuel Iheanacho is a Maryland native. He attends Georgetown Prep. And I've told you guys, if you look in the background, see some pictures. The biggest picture in this room was taken on the steps of Georgetown Prep's cathedral, where my eldest nephew got married. If hiring Bowen gets us Emmanuel Iheanacho, that would be tantamount to getting a Sanders or a type like that. So long way to go for that. I doubt he's been hired just for that, but if he pulls it off, more power to him. All right, let me get this going here. Go ahead, Bill.
Emmanuel is, I would not say a guy that I would by any stretch pencil into Ohio State's class right now. That's not to say that they can't get him, but that's not going to be an easy pull. He was, though, this is at least a positive, he was offered a scholarship by Virginia Tech. So there is familiarity there. Now, was he being recruited by Tyler Bowen? Not really, as Tyler Bowen is the offensive coordinator, not the offensive line coach. So he wasn't directly being recruited by him, but at least Emmanuel was offered a scholarship by Virginia Tech.
Yeah, Virginia Tech does a lot of work in the DMV. That's a main spot for them. If you look back at those teams when they were super, super competitive, we used to talk about how they had like a Northern Virginia pipeline, kind of the way Glenville has it to Ohio State. But let's talk about these guys. Goodr sunglasses. Oh, my God. Bill knows what style is. Mark's got multiple pairs of these. Stylish sunnies for only $25. So I don't know how many of you guys are the kind of guy like going out for the afternoon. You don't want to bring your expensive prescription sunglasses. You stop by a Krauser's or a 7-Eleven or a, whatever you call them out here, and you buy those little $5 ones off the rack. Guess what? Those are like $20 now, and they're still not the highest quality. That's why Goodr comes in. Lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized, starting at only $25 a pair. If you need a new pair of sunglasses, Goodr is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. Go to goodr.com, GOODR.com, /Bucknuts. Use the code Bucknuts, free shipping. Goodr.com, Bucknuts, Bucknuts code, free shipping. And yes, I need a Ricola. Not going to happen. All right.
Goodr's missing out on the cheater market. If they were smart, they'd be selling Goodr cheaters. Bill and I'd be wearing the Goodr cheaters.
Oh yeah, with some a little fake tint in there, and we'll go from there.
Hey Dan, I saw one comment or whatever. Somebody mentioned about a rumor that Tyler Bowen had already been in touch with at least one of the Ohio kids. I checked last night with the 3 right now big name, so to speak, kids in Ohio. I checked with Maxwell Riley last night. I checked with Sam Greer last night. And I checked with Adam Guthrie last night. And all 3 of them told me they had not yet heard from Tyler Bowen. Now, I tend to think that that'll change probably today. But as of last night, none of the 3 had heard from him yet. But again, his hiring had not been officially announced last night either. So got to kind of tread lightly. I will say, though, that he did offer a scholarship to Sam Greer. Sam Greer it didn't necessarily come directly from him because, again, he was not the offensive line coach from Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech. But Virginia Tech offered a scholarship to Sam Greer. I believe it was on Monday.
That's actually what I was going to move to next. Mark, Bill, you guys, either one, you can take this. How do you think the adding Bowen affects the recruitment of the current Ohio studs? Mark, you can take that first, and Bill, follow up.
Yeah, it's a fresh new relationship. Like Bill said, for the 3 guys in Ohio that have offers, I mean, he just took pictures with Coach Fry last week because he was making the rounds, and all of a sudden now he's gone. I think Bowen will obviously be a breath of fresh air to these kids. He'll come in and love them up, and they'll build those relationships, or he wouldn't have been the type of coach that was hired if he couldn't do that. And then that process has to happen. It's like pulling off the scab. I mean, you lost a coach, and one of the things that you're going to have to do is reestablish those relationships. I think I talked last week where I know coaches who have a notepad that when they call kids at night, they're literally writing down the topics they're talking about, mainly so they don't confuse kids a week later and be like, how's your mom, Lisa? And talking to the wrong kid, or how's your sister and brother? So Bowen's got to reestablish that, and that's not easy. That's called grunt work a little bit. Like, hey, you got to get on the ground, and you got to do the dossier on each kid. So when you walk in, you're impressive. You got to know the parents and the ups and downs and the past and present of these kids, and you can't go in there and not know what you're doing, I guess. So I think that's the part of the process we'll watch now, and I'm sure Bill will be tracking that to the recruit's reaction. That's more his lane.
Good question from Hollywood Hager, Bill, and you can finish up. Do you think the guys on the team knew that Fry was leaving, and then kind of the adjustment into Bowen?
I don't think they knew officially he was leaving. but I think that they knew it was a possibility. Sure, I mean, heck, it'd been pretty well known throughout that he was looking at the Chicago Bears, for instance, and that there was an interview. So I think they all knew it was a possibility, but I don't think they knew for sure until pretty much we did. I mean, thinking back to this past weekend on Friday night, at least Friday night, Ryan Day was on the phone with Maxwell Riley, and he told Max that this could happen. It hadn't happened yet, but it could happen. And, not to be, as Maxwell Riley told me, he said, don't jump into anything right away. We're going to have a good offensive line coach if it does happen. Well, on Saturday, then it did happen. And Max Riley is going to hear out. He has told me he's going to talk with Ohio State. He's going to talk with Tyler Bowen, hear everything out before he makes a decision.
Question here: what's the timeline on a new DC hiring? I would expect that to happen relatively soon. There are other things that weigh into this: current jobs, entanglements, and stuff like that. Dominoes need to fall. I think they wanted to get the offense set up and get everything dotted and signed with Hartline. Bill, they've also promoted Billy Kessler from coaching analyst. When they expanded the staff, you were allowed to bring on more dudes. He was one of those analysts. And now he's been promoted to quarterbacks coach. What do you know about Billy Kessler, the man, the recruiter, et cetera? And Mark, if you know him at all, we can go from there. Bill?
Yeah, and maybe Mark is even more familiar with him because I know the Akron connection there and all. But I will start off with saying that I was really impressed with the job Billy Kessler did the past couple of weeks. When they were down a recruiter, who did they send out on the road to recruit? Well, they sent out Billy Kessler. And he was all over. I mean, he was, I believe he was from California to Ohio and spots in between down south. He didn't, you want to go get her. I think recruiting wise, Billy Kessler is going to be exactly that. And talking to quarterbacks that he met with and that he had begun the recruiting with and all, they were really impressed. They liked what they heard from him and all. And also getting a little background from before he was named coach, talking to the quarterback, some of the quarterbacks at Ohio State, they think he is a very good quarterbacks coach too, very knowledgeable. So I think Billy Kessler is going to do a really good job coaching and recruiting, and I think he'll go get it.
You see what they did with Will Howard in one season, limited time, bringing in a pretty big offense or a playbook from Coach Kelly. That probably bodes well for your promotion if you're a part of that. But who's got a more important job next year than bringing another first-year quarterback along, whether it's Sayin or Tavian St. Clair or, Keen Holtz or whoever it may be. He's going to be the guy tasked with every day working those guys into shape and making sure they're on point. So, yeah, plenty of trust in that guy right now, if you ask me, to put him in that position.
Will Starr is speaking with his heart, not his mind here. Coach Day waiting on the Super Bowl to be over so he can hire Spags for DC. Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs. I don't think that's going to happen. I would support it, but I don't think if they win this Super Bowl, he's probably going to get himself on the Mount Rushmore of defensive coordinators all time, just on achievement. I think people tend to besmirch his name a little bit because he wasn't a tremendous head coach, but some guys are great coordinators. By the way, being a coordinator these days, not a bad gig. Old Chipper is going to be getting $6 million to hang out on the strip and not be blamed for anything, which is wonderful. All right. See, we asked where the trolls were. They're right here. There you go. Doubtful that's accurate given the fact he just got promoted to the national champs, but salt is salt, and it's salty whenever you taste it. All right, we're going to get out here early today. These guys have stuff to do. We appreciate everybody stopping by. We'll be back on Tuesday with this crew. Keep it locked in hard. There's more jobs to be added, and there's upheaval and craziness everywhere in the days of college football that we're in. So have a good one, Nutters of Buck.